to Utah for this position, for the birds and for the community. Hi everyone, my name is Frances. I am the Conservation Outreach Biologist here at Tracy Aviary. So I was originally born and raised in Southern California, in and around sunny Los Angeles. And my mom is actually from Mexico, and my dad from China. And so grew up in a multiracial household. From a young age, I was definitely a person who loved animals. Like, I remember my earliest memories would be me running around the library of East Los Angeles with my mom. And I would be in like the nonfiction section of the stacks, pulling out all of the encyclopedias. So anything from like aardvarks, echidnas, to like pronghorn, like eagles, like as many books as I could fit in my arms. Like, I would be reading about animals and telling people, did you know that that is a male house sparrow? Like at lunchtime, like I'd be sitting on the benches and pointing out to birds and be like, that is a rock dove. And so like my love of animals has always been like through reading, through books, and sort of like the wildlife that I could see around me. My undergrad degree was in zoology with a minor in painting. So a combination of both of the two things I love, which is like science, wildlife, learning about like how animals like live on the landscape, how their behavior like changes throughout different ecosystems. But then I've also definitely had like a love for art and like expressing how we see and understand the natural world through like art, like poetry, writing, painting. And I was like, I love this. I love learning about animals. You can do that for a career. Like, that's a thing that scientists do. And I guess growing up, I watched a lot of nature documentaries, but it was kind of like in that removed way that you're like, these things exist and I know that they exist. But I never imagined myself being the person in the documentary. Like the weird random guy who's like running through the forest being like, look at this cool bird, and then telling you all these facts. And I enjoy that, but I didn't see myself as that person until I guess college, and then going to an internship program where I saw people like me, like people of color who were interested in animals, wildlife, the environment, and talking to these professionals. I was like, oh, that could be me. And I think that's something that's really important to me now, making sure that other people can also imagine themselves in these places, in the national parks if they want to be there, but also in their backyard, saying, this is a house finch, this is a Cooper's hawk. Like, nature doesn't have to be something that is out there and like pristine. It can be anything that is like within, anything that we can touch and see. Whenever people talk about diversity in science, if we start with like the concept of like biodiversity, like healthy ecosystems have a whole bunch of like different types of species, plants, perspectives. We only have like one like white majority guiding conservation like practices, conservation law, that leaves out and excludes a lot of people from interacting with the places, the animals, like in the way that they have before or the ways that they could in the future. So for example, one of the new community science projects that we're starting here at the Jordan River Nature Center is meant to be bilingual. So it's called Birds and Beavers, or Castores y Comunidad. And the hope really is to bridge that sort of language gap, because not having that diversity of like perspective or languages really limits the type of people that we can talk with and engage with about conservation, or how you make personal connections. While maybe like saving Tupperware in your mom's kitchen, that is a form of conservation. Or going out and like spreading your coffee grounds in the garden in the back, or leaving out food for the birds. Like, that could all fall under the umbrella of conservation. Finding out that like as a person of color, like being in the outdoors, the word outdoors or outdoorsy doesn't have to mean you're like head to toe in expensive gear, you're going for weeks in the backcountry. Like, it doesn't have to mean that. It can mean that. And like people of color are also doing like extreme sports and doing that, but it doesn't always have to be like a very singular narrative. Like, how you engage with the outdoors and science and conservation can mean a lot of things. And you can be a dancer who also does like field work late at night, like under the light of the moon. There are just many facets to your identity that you don't have to leave behind when you become a scientist, an ecologist, a wildlife biologist, a researcher. don't know, I think small Frances really needed maybe someone to tell her that she could be the person in the documentaries. Like, it's hard to imagine yourself being that person when every documentary is a white person and it's not like a black or brown person. You can find people who are out there doing that work to bring like representation to the forefront and being like unapologetically saying like, I'm Latina and I'm a scientist. Like, there are a lot more people realizing like the younger generations want to see that, they need to see that. Just not being afraid to imagine yourself as that person, as the scientist, as the wildlife biologist, like holding an antelope. Like, that could be you. Like, just because you don't see it every day doesn't mean it couldn't be you one day. It also means like there's probably someone out there who does look like that. No, they're out there. We are out there. We are always out there.